Your town, your station, your voice. Afternoons on Calon FM. Listen online at calon.fm.
It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.
The HOUGHTON Weavers have been entertaining people around the world for the past 47 years with their unique blend of popular folk music, humour and audience participation. And they are currently on their annual UK autumn and winter tour. It's to coincide with a brand new album, The New World in the Morning, that is out on Friday the 14th of October, along with a wonderful new single out, their version of the Wild Mountain Thyme. That is out next Friday, the 7th of October, and I will play that for you in a moment. But first, I am so pleased to say I am joined on the line by Mr. HOUGHTON Weaver himself, the fantastic, legendary Steve Millington. Steve, it's fantastic to have you on the Stage and Screen Show, my friend. And I mean, first things first. Last couple of years have been a bit of a nightmare for everybody. How was it for you? How was it for the HOUGHTON Weavers? Did you manage to keep working okay?
Well, I was very lucky, Andy, and because I do a lot of studio work. That's what I've done for most of my musical life. And so with it being at home, I could just walk across to the studio, which is out, it's away from the house a little bit, but I could walk to the studio and it was kind of business as normal in that way. And because I sent stuff out digitally as well, so it's been, it was all right. It kept me going a little bit. But in terms of the gigs, obviously they were all cancelled, and it was a very, very strange time for the HOUGHTON Weavers. You know, we were, you know, it felt bizarre because we'd never had a break for all them years, yeah. And all of a sudden there we were with no gigs, and we were missing the fans, and we were trying to keep in touch with fans, but you know, we tried everything, every opportunity just to say hello, and luckily with modern technology you can keep in touch, can't you? But it was a very strange time for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But now you're back on tour, which is marvellous, and it's wonderful. It's great to get back out there. Yeah, and it coincides with a brand new album and a single, and we'll talk about those in a moment if that's all right with you. Sure. Because the HOUGHTON Weavers, they've been entertaining people all over the world for the past 47 years, and for the majority of that time you've been with them as well. And when anybody sets up a band, they can't possibly know, they can't even dream of having that kind of popularity. It must be wonderful. You know, we're the luckiest band, or one of the luckiest bands in the world, I think, because we really, you know, you're absolutely right. You set up a band. It was conceived in David's late mum's terraced house in Bolton, and it was all of a sudden, you know, the name came up. His mum picked the name, right, and obviously because it was derived from West HOUGHTON. And they were offered a TV program and a radio program, and the rest was history from there. It just kept the band going for all that time, and you know, it was brilliant, because the first actual audition for TV, was quite strange, because the guy set up the audition in a club, actually, in a working men's club in Bolton. Right. And they had the most horrific show. It was absolutely appalling. Everything went wrong. They were singing out of key. The guitars were all out of tune. And they said, we've no chance. Anyway, the following day, this guy from BBC rang and said, I'm really sorry I couldn't come last night. Can we do the same next week? Oh, fantastic. So, and you know, that's fate, isn't it? It's just how your life, or how the dice roll for you, really. Andy, and that's what happened. The second time, he didn't come the first time. He came the following time and said, "Let's come down and talk about the show." And he said, "Have you got enough material?" And of course, Tony and David said, "Oh, we've got plenty for our spot." He said, "No, for a series."
Oh, wow.
And that was it. It was, and then, of course, EMI signed the band on the strength of the TV. So it's like a ladder, isn't it? It kind of, it's like the cogs get into motion in the entertainment industry, and the rest is history, really. But it's very, very lucky, really. It's a great, we all appreciate it, and we all appreciate the audiences that still come to see them.
Yeah, absolutely, and they do say, don't they? If you do a job that you love, you never work a day in your life. And now,
no,
I suppose you look out nowadays, and you've got 3 or 4 different generations of people coming to watch you play. I mean, it must be a pinch yourself moment every day, really.
It is. I mean, we went to your beautiful part of the world on Saturday.
Yeah.
At Calon there, Theatre Calon.
Mm-hmm.
We were greeted there with cups of tea, biscuits, such a warm welcome, and then the lovely audience came in. They know all the songs, as you say. 3 generations of people children sat on the front row, and which is absolutely lovely to see. But we have a few songs that we do have songs that children join in with, and of course, the older people in the audience have sang those songs at school, some of them, and it's just that I guess it's just a band that connects with people, and we're not Pink Floyd, and we haven't got the musical prowess of Coldplay but we seem to do something that people appreciate, and they feel a part of it, I think, Andy, and that's what's important. I think they go away. We have our strap line is keep folks smiling, and we want we've always lived by that. And if they go out and say we've had a wonderful evening, that's our job done, really. Back another brew and back in the van, and it's fantastic. We're very lucky, really. It's great.
I mean, you've been labelled as the Northwest's leading comedy folk group. Was the comedy side of it? Was that always the aim of the game, or was that something that you kind of all fell into at some point?
Well, I think one of the founder members is a guy called Norman Prince, and he moved on from the band about 25 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Because he was also a BBC regional radio presenter at Radio Manchester,
all right,
and Radio Lancashire, and he wanted to further his radio career, and he still does. He still gigs, actually. He still does gigs, solo gigs, but he was the comedian, really, because he's a very, very funny man, and he was almost like a Billy Connolly type of folk guitar comedy. And he was very funny. And the original act was that Tony, the lead singer, the late Tony, because he's deceased now.
Uh-huh.
He kept perfectly still and never talked, while Norman, who was a little in stature compared to Tony. Tony was 6'3", Norman was about 5'7", and he would look up at Tony and take the mickey out of him, and it was like a double act in comedy, really, and that worked. But then it evolved into Norman left, and then Tony started doing more comedy and talking and speaking, and we've always kept that comedy element going,
Yeah.
Sometimes new stuff doesn't work, sometimes it does, but we've got such great fans. They laugh if something goes wrong. So, particularly with me, because I'm certainly not a comic, but I realise we've got lots of friends who are comics, proper comics, like the likes of Stan Boardman, and we've been working with Tommy Cannon, actually, just lately. We've done a few gigs with him, and these people at the timing, the timing is they're absolutely brilliant, a master at their art. But we kind of like we have an interaction comedy that's hard to explain, but it kind of like it works for us, and we're always we use a few props at Christmas, and
Yeah.
I remember the first gig I ever did for them, actually, Andy, and I'd left a band called Poacher, which they were kind of deemed as a fairly serious country rock band at the time. They had a couple of hits.
Yeah.
And one being in America, but I was a keyboard player in Poacher. Went into the Houghton Weavers, and by the second gig, I was they had me on stage doing with sooty on my hand, singing carols, and I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna like in front of about 1,700 people at the Preston Guild Hall, and I thought, so I was kind of like I was thrown into it.
Yeah. But the show is a mix of
elements of it.
Sorry,
we had great fun.
Yeah. I mean, the show it's a mix of comedy and obviously traditional folk music, and I suppose the blend has to be pretty well thought out. Really, you can't have too much of one without the other, right?
That's right. It's quite a strange combination, really, because you could have the sooty and sweep, and then the next minute you're singing about Willie McBride being lowered into a grave in France.
Yeah.
A First World War song.
Uh-huh.
So it's quite strange, isn't it? It's like, but yes, we have to pick the sets very poignantly and respectfully, I guess. I mean, it's just. But then we'll do something serious and go straight into a song like My Brother Sylvester, which is like a very light-hearted Tim Panelli song with very funny lyrics. Uncle Joe's Me Balls, for example, that's again a very, very light-hearted song. Yeah. So we have a good mixture of trad and sad songs, lots of songs with love songs even, and lots of songs about Ireland and missing Ireland and Scotland and the Highlands, and so we've got a good mixture of we got all our catalogue of songs out the other day, and we've literally got hundreds and hundreds of songs that we've done over the years, and we like to mix them up and bring them back and change it around a little bit.
Yeah. Is it predominantly British? Do you think? Do you get the same response wherever you play?
Well, they can't understand us anywhere else. That's your problem. The problem is, I think there was a professor once in France, so a professor in English, and we were at some ceremony, and he didn't understand. He said, "I've been a professor in English for best part of 17 years, but I've never heard this English before." And that was the Houghton Weavers, and when he was talking to Tony at the time, and because it's a dialect on its own, really, and we go past Birmingham, and if they go into heavy accents of West Houghton, it is hard to understand. I guess it's like that everywhere, though, isn't it? There's Cornish, and if a Cornish band, the Fisherman's Friend, came up to Lancashire or to Wales, it's, and of course your Welsh acts. I work with Iona and Andy sometimes in the studio.
Uh-huh.
A great, lovely couple, and they of course do lots of native Welsh songs, and so, but yeah, we kind of stick to the UK, really. We go to Scotland, we travel abroad, we go to the Isle of Man once a year, and to Peel, which is absolutely a wonderful, wonderful time in the summer.
Yeah.
We do 2 nights out there, and we go up to Scotland. We come down to Wales, of course, and but we'll travel anywhere, really. Anyone will have us. We did work for the British Army and went all over doing concerts for the British Army. So that took us to Germany and all sorts of places. But there is a bit of understanding that we have to talk slowly and.
Well, when I was a kid, I was drawn quite heavily into folk music, and
Yes.
I could never quite put my finger on it really, because it's not really a thing that I think children. You don't hear many children saying, "Oh yeah, I'm right into my folk," but it was only when I
No.
got a bit older that I suddenly put my finger on it, and it wasn't just the music; it was the whole kind of culture of it, you know.
Yes.
I mean, when I grew up in North Wales, and we had folk festivals and the Eisteddfods and the whatnot, and there's
course,
nothing
yes.
quite like sitting, even to this day, and we had it this summer with sitting on a summer's evening on the grass listening to folk music with a pint of something nice. There's nothing quite like that.
No, it's great, isn't it? It's fantastic, and we particularly we've just done a steam fair, for example, over in a lovely place called Ray Green near Blackpool, and it was great because there were all these people outside, and the beautiful. It seemed to go together with the HOUGHTON Weavers, really. The steam traction engines and all the tractors, and us with singing all these industrial revolutionary songs, and it was great. But all the guys were there with sooty faces, drinking pints of bitter, and it was fabulous. And the smell of the diesel engines, I'll remember that forever, I think.
Yeah, but
and a lovely summer's evening.
But I was going to say, you grew up not a million miles away from where we are now. We're in Wrexham, and you grew up in Thelwell in Cheshire.
I did.
Was music always a big deal in your family?
Well, it was really, because my dad was in an army band, and he was a drummer in an army band. So I kind of get a little bit of influence from him. My mum was Irish, so I was always, kind of weaned on the Dubliners and, all the kind of Irish acts.
Uh-huh.
And my brother, he was a decade older than me, but he'd gone to university, so he had an electric guitar, and so it was always around. And my mum and dad played records all the time, and from the shows, My Fair Lady. So I'd get My Fair Lady on Mondays, followed by, Jimi Hendrix on Tuesdays, when my brother was, whoever got the gramophone, really.
Yeah.
And my dad would have his army brass band. So I've had a very eclectic kind of music indoctrination, really, I suppose. It's been great. But I was from being very young. I've always played piano, so it's been it's part of my life, really. I don't know what I would never imagine life without all the music I've been involved in, and it's been wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
So piano was your first instrument, really. That got you your first.
Yes, it was. Although I played acoustic guitar and whistles first.
Oh right.
Yeah, I used to play that Everton theme, Johnny Todd, I would know it as, the Z Cars theme.
Yeah.
I'd play that on whistles, and I'd play it on a mouth organ, and soon I'd be taking my mouth organ and whistles and guitar to school, and it's quite strange, really, because I went to school with a young gentleman called Stephen Huff.
Uh-huh.
And he's probably the most renowned concert pianist in the world. If you look him up, he's absolutely amazing.
Right.
He was in my school, so he'd do a rendition of Mozart, and then I'd play Johnny Todd on my mouth organ. And I met up with his mum. Quite strangely, I met up with his mum. Lives up near me now, and she's passed away sadly, but a couple of years ago. But I said, "How's Stephen doing?" And she said, "Well, I said, "Where does he live now?" Well, he has 2 houses in New York. Oh, and he's got the one in Milan, Oh, and of course he's got two apartments in London as well.
But is he happy?
Well, is he happy? He's just been. I think he's actually Sir Stephen Huff now. I think so.
Perfect.
But he's absolutely wonderful. But it was quite strange that he came from Thirlwall as well.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying I'm as famous as Stephen Huff, but there you go.
So, but your first paid gig, should we say, was when you were 14. I mean, that's quite a feat for a 14-year-old.
Well, yeah, the geography teacher in Lim said to me, he used to call me Millie. That was my nickname. And Millie, what are you doing next Friday night? I said, well, nothing, because they knew I played piano. And they said that they want an organist at the Star in Statham, which is a little village just outside Lim, near Thirlwall, and they want an organist. And I said, yes, I'll do it. And of course, my dad said, how many songs have you got? How many? I said, well, I've probably got about 5, and that I could play. And so I quickly learned a couple of sets, and but I'd had organ lessons luckily, and I could play bass pedals and everything else. So, and that was my first it was my first paid gig. And without that, Andy, maybe I wouldn't have been pushed to go on to doing other things. It's quite strange in your life, isn't it, how it takes the course. And it was wonderful. That will always be a place in my heart, that first little gig at the pub, and playing songs like Yellow River and Tie a Yellow Ribbon. And
Fantastic.
I don't know what the yellow theme is there, but
there's obviously there is a link. There's a working men's club by us that holds the brags about the fact that Gary Barlow played his first gig there, and people always remember their first gig, don't they? I mean, it's one of them things. Absolutely.
Well, a very, very talented man, and he was also similar to me, wasn't he? He went through clubs and pubs and playing the organ, and it's a fantastic foundation for anybody, because they're not easy. They weren't easy audiences in clubs, were they? In pubs, you had to keep people's attention, but it's really good grounding for anybody, really.
Oh, definitely.
And unfortunately, they're going out. Lots of the clubs are going, and of course, sadly, the pub trade is. A lot of the pubs are closing as well because of the environment at the moment with the economics and everything. It's very sad, really.
It's appalling, really, what's happening in that regard. But you tried proper jobs before you continued with the music, and this is something that stood out to me this morning when I was doing a bit of research on you, that you became a commercial diver. What's that?
It's bizarre, that, isn't it, Andy? What a transition.
What is it?
Well, what happened was, my dad, although he was in an army band and everything else, I was 16 years old. There was I'll make it as brief as possible, but there was a band called Harmony Village, did one opportunity knocks, and I was 16, and they said, we want you to come and we want you to go professional. And I said, yes, of course I will. This band. And they dropped all the musical parts off at the house that I was living in Thirlwall with my mum and dad. And my dad said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to join a band. They're going to France next week. And oh, no, you can't. You've got to get a proper job.
Yeah.
He said to me, so I said, well, what's a proper job? Oh, no, you need a proper apprenticeship, then you've got something to fall back on. I said, oh, right, okay. And so I took a job I actually got an apprenticeship for the Manchester Ship Canal as an engineer, and did a 4-year engineering apprenticeship and went to college and everything else. But it was all marine engineering. And I loved every minute of it, to be honest, but did music as well, part-time. And when I finished serving my time, they moved me to Manchester Docks. And what was happening was fully trained divers, commercial divers, were coming to the docks, working for the Manchester Ship Canal, but they were using it as a stepping stone for the oil rigs and off-season, when the oil rigs were closed,
right.
They couldn't dive, they'd come to... So they just said, we're going to train up a couple of internal divers. And with you being an engineer now, would you be willing to train? And being one always to take a challenge, I said, yeah, why not? I'll have a go. And that's how it came about. They trained me for a year. I was trained by 2 Royal Navy divers who worked there, ex-Royal Navy. And it, something, it was, again, one of the best time, from 21 to about 26, I think I was. It was absolutely fantastic because I'd be on the boat in the summer with my acoustic guitar down below on the boat, singing, writing songs, and when I wasn't diving, and then of course the music overtook, and I had to make a decision whether to carry on engineering and diving, commercial diving, or do the music, and that's what I did. It was so it was a decision, but I enjoyed every minute, and I've still got all my diving logs, and I still look back, and it was mainly in the docks and lock gates and all that kind of stuff. But I loved every minute of it, and it was great.
Incredible. What a story. But you obviously then you went on to, the music, as you say, took over, and you started to write for TV and film, and you became the in-house writer for Universal Music Worldwide.
Yes, I still am actually. Still write for you. Still one of their writers. I mean, they've got quite a few writers, but I'm one of them. Yeah.
That's it.
And BBC. BBC, I did a lot of BBC as well, but.
Because you never think that somebody's actually employed to do that job. Do you know what I mean? You think that it's that they hear a bit of music they like and they use it. They don't think someone's literally composed it.
That's the way it's going. Sadly, to be honest, Andy.
Uh-huh.
But again, I was very lucky because I've worked with a few producers, TV producers, and one being a guy called Jim Brown, he's been an active TV producer for years and years and years, and he just happened to like what I did, and so he always used to champion bespoke music. He wanted, if he did a program like we did a lot for the Biography Channel, and we've done lots of different things, and he'd want his own music. And he'd give me a brief and say, I want this. And, of course, that's what we did. And I was very lucky to work with lots of people that wanted bespoke music.
Yeah.
But Universal Music, they do more synchronization music. So you're writing with lots of writers and you end up on an album. And those albums go out to TV producers all over the world. And like you said, they just pick a piece. So you never quite know. You'll finish some music off on an album, and you'll never know what it's going to be used for, because until you get your royalties in, your PRS royalties and stuff. And it might say, Ramsey's Nightmare, Kitchen Nightmares. And you think, oh, so they might have used a little snippet or something on that, and that's the way it's working now. It kind of works with, it's called synchronization. Well, you probably know because you're obviously in radio and so forth. But that's the way the music writers have gone. The days of Derek Hilton writing for Last of the Summer Wine and all. It's all about budgets now, and it's most of it is library music, and that's sadly how it's going. But there are still bespoke composers around, but I've done quite a, I've been very lucky in that field as well, really.
Well, I'll have to ask you, because no one's going to thank me if I don't. What's the biggest movie that you've lent your music to?
Movie?
Mm-hmm. Or
Well,
TV?
we did. Well, I'm working on one currently, funnily enough, which is our TV program. I mean, I've done lots of. I'll tell you what I did do, which is quite unusual. Countdown in China.
Brilliant.
They were. What happened was Jim Brown was the producer and director of Countdown, and they wanted a new theme writing for China, and then the Chinese said, "No, we like the theme, but we would like it more involved, more Chinese instruments."
Right.
So I came up with this the ticking clock, the countdown clock, going dick, 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 and it had all these ding, 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 diddly, ding, bong, with big gongs and
Brilliant.
Chinese instruments on it. But I've done lots of things, like I've done music for Flog It here, for BBC. We've done here at Heaven and Earth and Sunday Morning. I've been very lucky, really.
Yeah.
And I was currently. I've just done some music for Prince Charles, actually, or should we say King Charles?
Yeah.
Which that will be coming out soon. Which was quite a lovely commission for me, really, and it was an honour to do that. There are some stuff. There's music out of mine at the moment with Prince Charles, but there is a new programming coming out, and so I've just worked on that. But also I'm working on a film called Between Weathers, which is set up in the Shetlands, and it's actually it's all about an American coming over and taking over and buying the island, and so I've actually done quite a bit on that film currently. Lots of different things. Lots of things. I did a thing called Win Your Weight in Gold once for Granada, which was in Turkey.
Wow.
And I've done some things I've tried to forget as well, really. But funnily enough, it's I did a single for do you remember Andy?
Yeah.
From the changing rooms. Well, I produced and did When I Had a Hammer.
Right.
And he said that was the turning of his career.
Oh, God, Andy, I forgot all about him.
Yeah, he tries to. Everywhere he goes and he does a public appearance, they might open a Wickes, am I allowed to say, or should we say any superstore?
Right.
He goes and opens a DIY store and they play When I Was at, If I Had a Hammer.
Yeah.
Which it takes. He actually said, "It's the worst thing you've ever done for me."
Oh, brilliant.
So some successful stuff and some not so good.
Yeah,
but
brilliant.
On the whole, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. God, I mean, it's such an incredible career. And before I let you go, I'm going to have to ask you about the album and the single and the tour. Let's start with the single. It's your version with the HOUGHTON Weavers of the Wild Mountain Thyme. It's
yes.
Quite ironically, it's possibly my favourite folk song.
It was your favourite?
Oh no! I honestly,
I
I gave it a spin last Saturday on my my
thank
show.
Thank you, Andy. That's very kind of you.
It's absolutely wonderful, and I read that you've it's being dedicated to Her Majesty the Queen. Tell us about that.
Well, what happened was, Andy, it is actually currently for the film I just mentioned earlier on, for the film Between Weathers, and the scene will be the girl is leaving the island on a ferry, and that's gonna be in the backdrop. But with COVID, the film's it's very slow. It's been put on ice. Then the sad passing of Her Majesty. We wanted to put it on the album anyway, and we thought it was kind of appropriate because we'd seen lots of footage of Her Majesty in the Highlands and the heather, and we thought that's kind of like a backdrop to her life in the Highlands there, and it just seemed very appropriate as a bit of a, you know, a little bit of a tribute to her to do it, and we felt it was, you know, I don't know, it just felt right to release it as a single, and so we did, and it's got a wonderful guitarist on it called Ken Little, who's from Steel Eye Spam.
Yeah, brilliant.
And you can, you know, the solo there, he did the solo in the middle of the track, and it's a poignant song, and the lyrics are very poignant, and we love the track. We've done it for many years, and we just thought it'd be a good idea to record it and put it out, and we hope everybody likes it. You know, we do, and thank you for playing it. That's lovely.
Yeah, not at all. It's a stunner, and it's released on the 7th of October, coinciding the following week. The new album. It's called New World in the Morning. It's a beautiful name. Is it a lockdown baby? Is it because of? Was it written during lockdown? Most of it.
Well, it needs locking down, really. It could do with locking down. Well, it was. It is a lockdown baby, really. But it's you know, this album is really nice to do because obviously sadly Tony passed in 2019, but he was his brother Jim Berry, who joined us a few years ago. He's been with us on and off with us for years and years and years. Jim. A very talented writer, a mouth organ player and guitarist, very big. He writes kind of Bob Dylan-y type songs, and a great writer, lyricist, and poet, actually. So I thought it would be a great opportunity when his brother passed to have an album that's got a mixture of traditional penned songs and a few well-known covers done in our kind of style.
Yeah.
And so Jim's written 6 songs for the album, and they're a mixture of a couple of serious ones, but he's very good at writing parodies and writing jokey songs. And I think they're wonderful, some of the songs he's written on the album. And our David Littler, who's a former member, he's a founder member of the HOUGHTON Weavers, he's written a wonderful song a few years ago, and it's called Tall Ships. It was about the tall ships race, and he was influenced because the Weavers played in Liverpool, and on the day of the ships came in, and he wrote this wonderful song called Tall Ships, and that's on the album as well. So it was very hard to all get together, but we managed it. It took us over 2 years, and I think it took us longer than Dark Side of the Moon, I think it was. but you know, we're pleased with it. We're pleased with the outcome, and we've got 14 tracks, and we're very pleased to put it out there.
Fantastic. And of course, as I say, you're on tour as well. You played, did you say Colwyn Bay last week?
We played it on Saturday, and it was a fantastic night. It was great. They were a fantastic audience.
Yeah.
Always are, though. And the staff are brilliant there, and we have a wonderful time.
Fantastic. And I think the closest place, although everywhere's quite close, I'll give the dates out in a moment, but the closest, I think, for us in Wrexham, you're playing Ellesmere Port on the 20th of October.
No, it's actually, I think it's on the 13th of, is it the Gladstone? Oh, no, yes, we are doing, you're absolutely right. I'm stand corrected. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Hungry Horse, is it?
That's right, yeah.
Yes. We're looking forward to that. And but what confused me, we are on the Wirral on the 13th of December.
Oh, right, okay. So is that a different show? Is that more of a Christmassy feel?
Yeah, that's more of a Christmas feel at the wonderful Gladstone Theatre.
Oh,
we've done
beautiful.
that for years and years and years.
Excellent. And to be back on tour before I let you go, because I've been speaking to you for nearly an hour here, Steve, and I really appreciate it.
I've loved speaking to you. It's fantastic.
Lovely. And you're, it must be so wonderful after lockdown to just get back in a hall and just to sing and just do what you're meant to be doing must be incredible.
You know something, that without the people and our fans, you know, it wouldn't be, you know, that's what it's all about for us. And they're our friends. And sadly, you know, there were some sad stories of people, fans from long-standing fans that passed away in COVID. So it was a very, very sad time for everybody in the country, wasn't it? And some people never came back to the shows. And you know, we'd like to dedicate the album to people that did, you know, that haven't come back to see us. But it was a wonderful feeling, the first concert back when we were all allowed to go out. And for everybody out there in the land who's doing theatres, it's fantastic to get back out there and actually see smiling faces out there. And, you know, it's brilliant.
Well, I often say, I think we missed it more than we thought we ever would do, because
absolutely,
you know, I mean, for the people like yourselves on stage, that's you know, that's your livelihood, and you missed it. But for everybody else, it was quite, audience-wise, it was quite emotional to get back into a space and watch shows like that with a group of people. It was very bizarre. It
was, and you know. Let's hope let's hope it goes from strength to strength for everybody now, and it's wonderful to be back out there and touring and meeting people again and getting new fans and have it, and like people like yourself who are enormous help to us, and we very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. It was quite strange on Saturday night because we're sponsored. We do a song called Uncle Joe's Mint Balls.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's bizarre, really, from one extreme to the other. Wild Mountain Thyme to Uncle Joe's Mint Balls. But we do an Uncle Joe's Mint Balls song, and I just happened to say, we finished the first set off in Calon, and we're sponsored by Santa's, who makes the Uncle Joe's Mint Balls.
Right.
So we very often they give us sweets, and I take them out, and I happen to say to the audience, if you would like some free Uncle Joe's Mint Balls, they're over there in the corner, and help yourselves. And there was nearly a fight in the studio. There was nearly a fight with the lady who was selling the records, and but it was lovely. It was lovely. And so we went back on doing "Dirty Old Town" with the song, and everybody was sucking Uncle Joe's mint balls. It was
Steve Millington, the HOUGHTON Weavers. It's been an absolute treat speaking to you this afternoon. Thanks so much for that, mate.
As well, Andy.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and
to you. Thank you.
And I love your new single, Wild Mountain Thyme. Will be released on the 7th of October. Would you do me the honour of introducing it for us?
Yes, I will indeed. Thank you very much, Andy, as well. Thank you so much. And the song that Andy's going to play is one of our poignant favourites, and it's called Wild Mountain Thyme.
Cheers, pal.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go, and we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? I will build my love a tower crystal fountain, and on it I will pile all the flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pull Wild Mountain Thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? If my true love she were gone, I would surely find another with the Wild Mountain Thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the Wild Mountain Thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pull Wild Mountain Thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? Will you go, lassie, go?
Isn't that absolutely stunning? There you go, Wild Mountain Thyme. It's the new single from the HOUGHTON Weavers, due for release on next Friday, the 7th of October, and is taken from their forthcoming newer album, New World in the Morning, and that is due for release on Friday, the following Friday, Friday the 14th of October. For more information about their UK tour, go to www.houghtonweavers.com/concert dates. I think that's the easiest thing. And the closest place, as we were saying there, is for us North Walians, is Ellesmere Port, I think. The Hungry Horse Folk Club on Thursday, the 20th of October. Go and see the HOUGHTON Weavers. It's an order, right? Thanks to Steve Millington from the HOUGHTON Weavers for joining us. He can come on every week, right?
It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.